Hello and welcome to Thrash Life, episode 4. It's me, your boy, with your boy over here. Today we're going to talk about Red Fang releasing a video game, Megadeth releasing a cryptocurrency, Motley Crue, as well as an interview with Kurt Spiess of Hey Girl Hey, former Maryland championship wrestler,
Really?
professional wrestler, semi-professional, little leagues. I'm not really sure.
MCW. When I was into wrestling, I went to a MCW show once, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. But first, how you been, bud?
I've been good.
Right on.
Yeah, how have you been?
I've been all right.
Yeah.
Over the week, a new show came on Disney Plus that I decided to watch called The Beatles Get Back. Did you check this out at all?
Could not have any less interest in the Beatles.
Oh, it's so good though. So check it out. Like the Beatles are like super goody like proto boy bands, right? They're like super squeaky clean. They play fucking boring music by today's standards, but it's there.
Yeah.
This is the last days of the Beatles before they do that famous rooftop concert. So they like rent out a big warehouse for like 14 days, and it chronicles like it's 60 hours of footage that Peter Jackson got, like Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, and it's them like doing 8 hours a day in this place, sort of writing what would be the last album or whatever, and right before this live show. And it's raw. It's not like the shiny Beatles. It's like the Beatles that are smoking and drinking, and they're like saying cuss words and being like super infantile, and they're also having like legitimate band disagreements with each other, and it's like kind of personal. I mean, I watched an hour of it. I think it's like 8 hours long, and I think it was worth it to watch like an hour just to see that band dynamic of I mean, it's the real band dynamic, I think, of all bands, but you just never see it from the Beatles.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. You got Disney Plus?
I do. So I'm not watching 8 hours of it though.
No, you just pick 1 hour, you know? It's
I'll give it a try.
Yeah. It's pretty good. So like I said at the beginning, Red Fang made a video game, Blade to Waste. They put out an official press release about this. I have not played this game, full disclosure. Press release says Red Fang, whose highly anticipated new album Arrows arrived over the summer, give fans an opportunity to try out their own katana skills, as seen as the band's Arrows video with the new single-player Blade to Waste video game. Relapse Records and Red Fang will be offering 3 top scorers a variety of prize packs, including a grand prize featuring the Red Fang X Psycho Las Vegas Fortune Hunter Gamblers Pack, a custom deck of cards, casino-grade dice, a forged metal challenge coin with a custom box, Arrows vinyl, and a t-shirt. To enter, contestants should post a screenshot of their score to social media with the hashtag Blade to Waste and tagging Red Fang. The contest ends at January 1st.
Red Fang, right?
Red Fang, yeah.
Red Fang.
I didn't really think of Red Fang as the video game band, and I remember the video.
No, it's just funny because that statement, I think you had to say Red Fang like 17 times.
Yeah, definitely.
That whole thing.
Well, I mean, they want you to know who they're talking about. Yeah. It's their press release.
Yeah.
Have not played the game. The music video I remember was them spending all their video budget on a katana and chopping shit up with it, which cool.
I like their videos, but who hasn't done that in real life?
I find it hard to believe that they're actually like wasting all that money. It's like prop money. They're probably not spending like, the other
Maybe.
video where they
The
spent
one,
all the budget on the car and
yeah,
destroying all the
I
shit.
love that video.
And it's cool, but like clearly a bunch of money went into making a fucking video game. So you're not like,
Yeah,
where's that money coming from? I don't
yeah,
know. I'm skeptical. Check it out. Get a high score. Apparently, they do not have an internal leaderboard, so you'll have to screen cap your score and then send it to them. Be extra sure not to use Photoshop and show a
yeah.
really high score on
What
there.
the fuck?
Just post a screenshot, a legitimate screenshot. Don't cheat. Don't cheat for your Red Fang X Psycho Las Vegas Fortune Hunter Gamblers pack.
Which, what was it? It was a dice
Yeah, it's
and some cards.
It's got a custom deck of cards, casino grade dice, a forged metal challenge coin with a custom box, arrows, vinyl, and a t-shirt. No size indicated, but hopefully they will give you the right one in the
Yeah.
box.
Okay.
All the best to our big, big friends and fans in Red Fang.
Yeah.
Megadeth, the thrash band with Dave Mustaine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's launching his own cryptocurrency. This is hot off the heels of their last venture, which was making a NFT of their mascot, Vic Rattlehead, who's a skeleton with the bolted metal plate sunglasses in his head. So I don't really want to get into the specifics of blockchain technology and everything, but decentralized currencies such as cryptocurrencies like the new Megadeth coin are really only worth as much as people will pay for them. And I don't know why they're kneecapping themselves by making them about Megadeth purely.
Yeah.
But hey, their Instagram post says, Megadeth coin is here. $Mega, the official cryptocurrency of Megadeth and our community, is available now. By buying, holding, and transacting with Mega, fans will gain access to exclusive and premium benefits. Cyber Army members that also hold Mega will unlock additional exclusives, access, and offers. As a thank you to the Cyber Army, we're gifting Mega to all of our premium, deluxe, and free members. So if you're part of the fan club, you get some free cryptocurrency that's essentially worth nothing.
Yeah.
But I guess it helps you get some cool VIP stuff that they won't even tease to you.
Yeah, I mean, just all the merchandising of metal bands here lately. It seems like it's all we find to cover. We have this damn Clue game now. We got a cryptocurrency. Like, how about y'all put out some good albums?
Yeah, no, can't do that. Sorry. You can have some cryptocurrency though, and some NFTs. Why would you even put out good music? What you should do is sell all your existing music like Motley Crue did to their record label. Motley Crue selling their entire catalog to BMG for $150 million.
Fleeced them.
Reported by Variety. The industry trade mag says the deal is valued at approximately $150 million, although other sources cited a significantly lower number.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And the band might not be collecting all the money immediately because it's a convoluted mess of several smaller payments. This is kind of weird. I mean, I guess at the same time that you have the Beatles being owned by Disney, and the Beatles catalog has been tossed around like a football between like Michael Jackson and whoever else owned it historically over the years. And then you have Taylor Swift, who's mad that she doesn't have her masters, and she's re-recording all the stuff, so she does have her masters. And then you have people like Motley Crue who are just like, I don't have enough cocaine money. I need to get 150 mil.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure who approached who on the deal.
Yeah.
But it seems like a pretty good deal for Motley Crue.
Oh, it's great for Motley Crue. I mean, Just imagine being in Motley Crue right
I
now.
hope somebody at that record label gets fired over this.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a wonderful long-term investment. We'll be playing Motley Crue numbers into the future, just like we are playing the great classics of the past. Kickstart My Heart, greatest song, right up there with Bach.
Dr. Feelgood,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll still
150 million. No.
still be feeling good in the future.
Yeah.
Want to play Dr. Feelgood. So did you hear about this band called The Word Alive and their gear getting stolen?
I did hear about this story, yeah.
So this is kind of weird. I found this story on Metal Sucks, which is a ironically named website. So this band is called The Word Alive. They got all their gear stolen. Um, they used a product from Apple called an AirTag that lets you locate the AirTag itself. You can hide the AirTag inside of things, and then you can use the like Find My iPhone sort of functionality to find it later.
Right.
So their gear got stolen, and they knew exactly where it went right away. Says here, aware that any kind of confrontational encounter could end in violence, they played it cool. There was power in numbers, of course, and the band rolled up there with their full group. But they struck up a friendly conversation with the thieves, said they simply wanted their stuff back and didn't want any trouble, and gifted the thieves weed and booze in exchange for their stuff. Then they posed for some photos and went on their way.
Fleeced them.
Fleeced them.
Another fucking deal. Very one-sided.
Yeah. I mean, granted, there's no way that the weed and the booze was worth the thousands of dollars of instruments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
yeah, at least it's a good feel-good story.
yeah. So this article also says if you're in a touring band, buy yourself AirTags right now. Friggin' now. Don't hesitate. Just do it. Get a 4 for the price of a round of shots for the boys, or buy 8 with the proceeds of 8 to 10 t-shirts you just sold. Do it. I've seen these AirTags be used for like a lot of interesting things recently. Like one was an experiment where a guy tried to send them into North Korea and track them, and just to see what they would do with the package that was sent to North Korea.
Interesting.
And if it would go in, and if he'd wind up on a government list somewhere. And the long story short of that is that none of the packages got into Korea, but he could see and actually dispute with the mail carrier where the packages were at any given time. So they'd be like, checked in somewhere else, and he'd be like, I know you're lying that it's checked in over here because I see my package sitting on the tarmac in the fucking airport over here. And the functionality it seems like completely necessary. Like either you should get AirTags and put them in your thousands of dollars of gear so that it doesn't walk off without you knowing where it goes, or you should not play with thousands of dollars of gear because your audience probably will not know the difference in how much you spent.
Just make sure it's cheap and heavy.
Yes.
And nobody's going to want it.
Definitely. The bigger, the better, or the worst. That's about all I got for today.
I got just want to clean up something from last week. The that Trader album, they've just announced that they are releasing an album. I went to listen to it, couldn't find it. Doesn't come out till January.
Oh, okay.
And you have to find them at traderphl.bandcamp because there's another thrash band called Trader from Germany on Spotify.
Interesting.
And it's not the Trader I was talking about. They're okay, but
well, shout out to Trader Philly.
Yeah.
And Trader Germany, I guess.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Trader Joe's. Anybody else who's a trader? Oh wait, it's different trader.
Different trader.
Traitor versus trader. Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the traders and traitors.
Yeah. And let's see, did you hear about that guy that lost his prosthetic leg at the Gore show?
No.
No. Well, they stopped the show, got him his leg back.
Wow. That is so kind, but also like How are they going to compete with Astro World like that? You got to up those numbers. Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah.
Just helping people out.
Well, we just do it different, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they resume covering them in fluids.
Yeah, that's actually tasteless. That's good on Guar for actually being humans and stopping the show.
Yeah.
So that
They even managed to crack a joke in there somewhere. I think the guy said something like, if anybody has this guy's fake leg or an extra fake leg, please pass it to the front of the stage.
nice. I imagine somebody's probably drinking out of it. The nature of the fake leg being lost.
Yeah. It'd be weird to be the one who's just standing there like, it's me. I'm the one with the leg. Here, take it.
Yeah, actually, how does
Like,
that
why
happen?
would you have it? Like, what if you just saw it, you pick it up, you're like, the fuck is this thing? Next thing you know, you look up and they're like, who's got the leg?
So everybody in the pit is like doing fucking skip it every time they come across the leg. Like everybody's just ignoring the fact that there's a leg on the ground.
Yeah, or it was just that quick.
Why is like crowd mentality is ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like you would. I don't know that much about fake legs because like both mine are real, but
Right.
does it strap on? Wouldn't somebody have to pull it off?
I think there's different ones. Like
Okay.
I think they have like some kind of a socketing sort of vibe.
Either way, I don't think it's that easy of a thing to lose. So I think,
No, it's probably pulled off.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a dick move.
yeah. Or somebody fell and then the leg just popped off
Yeah,
as a
so-
result.
If you're out there pulling on people's legs, stop it.
Pulling on anything, stop it.
Yeah, definitely.
No pulling. Chill out at the Guar. They shoot stuff at you.
Yeah.
You don't shoot stuff at them.
Right.
All right, I'm done with the edgy jokes.
Yeah.
Let's get into our interview with Kurt. It was a very exciting talk about many things. Thank you. All right. Could you introduce yourself and tell us your pronouns?
Oh, yeah. My name's Kurt. I am a singer and drummer in Hey Girl Hey and working on an original project. And pronouns? Whatevs.
Cool. How would you describe the music that you play?
I am mostly in the pop punk, emo, rock genres, I would say, is where I tend to, that's like my wheelhouse of stuff. But through doing like cover stuff, I've just been way more open to really playing whatever. And definitely in the rock punk basis of stuff.
Right. And what kind of clubs do you play your music in? Or places, rather?
Yeah.
Many places.
Yeah, lately it's mostly been downtown, playing cover sets. But then back when I was in original bands, Sidebar in Baltimore was a big one for a while. Auto Bar and just like the smaller other venues. There's a place, Crossroads in Glen Burnie, that was pretty popping for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like for whatever, like it was an otherwise not spectacular bar, but Billy just put on great shows there.
Okay. Yeah, I think Crossroads is gone now. It's a crab place.
I don't even think it's anything still. I think it's still in limbo.
Okay.
It's still in purgatory. It's at a crossroads.
Nice. So, earliest musical influences before you're cognizant that music exists as a thing outside of people just waving their hands and sounds coming out. Like, what was the first time that music struck you as a thing that really turned your mind on?
The first time I like knew about like a song that I can remember was Seal Kiss from a Rose. So it was in the Batman movie at the time, I believe.
Was that
whatever?
Batman Returns? Or
Could
something
be.
like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever, I'm not sure which 90s Batsuit it was, if it had the armor nipples or not, but yeah, that, and it was like some video of Seal and like Batman. It was like kind of going back and forth.
Okay.
To Kiss from a Rose. And my mom had it on tape, and I'm just like, play it, run it back, run it. Like, that was just my song. And then she tried to play Beatles, and I'm like, what is this trash? Like, let's Kiss from a Rose. Come on.
Right.
But then I actually went home and listened to the Beatles, and I was like, all right, this is sweet. Like, I think Rubber Soul was the first like tape I listened to.
Okay.
And then that was like how I knew about bands was the Beatles. I thought the Beatles were still alive. My parents and like still like doing. I had no concept of like that this was a 30-year-old band or whatever at the
Oh,
time.
okay.
My parents took me to it was like Beatle Fest in Ocean City,
Okay.
which had like a Beatles cover band, but they were like all dressed to the nines in the Sergeant Pepper gear and everything like
Ooh.
that. And at one like before the show started, I'd like seen him go into another room because it was at a hotel, I want to say in Ocean City. So they went into like some like ballroom in a hotel, not the one that the show was at. But then I like snuck away from my parents to like go see him, and like I was like, oh, I want to go say hi to them.
Nice.
And yeah, and they played, and I thought it was like the actual Beatles because I think I was 4 or 5.
Excellent. So at that point, they're just like Santa Claus to you. It's like, yeah, they just exist. I mean, we don't think about it too much. They're
Right,
here.
exactly. Yeah, my parents weren't gonna like explain, the whole concept of like, oh yeah, John's dead. They had a falling out. Like they weren't gonna explain
Yeah.
the whole backstory of the Beatles. I still just
Right.
you're getting used to the songs.
So, from there, what was it like when you picked up an instrument and started trying to make music with other people?
So during that time, I got a drum set, but it was like one of the baby drum sets, so I wouldn't even really count it.
Hmm.
But I still had it in the back of my mind come middle school, and I joined the middle school band, like just the snare drum.
Okay.
And at the time, I'd say like honestly, the first time like playing music was people, not even within the band, but just within the drum line itself. Um, it was so this was like 2001 or so. No, 2003. Um, Everybody was like freestyling and like making beats with just their snare drum and stuff like and like bouncing back and forth and like
Right.
but you also had to play quieter than everybody because the drums were so loud. So like it'd be like a snare drum with 3 books stacked on it, and you'd be like slamming a pencil against it and like hitting the side of it. But yeah, I mean all that collaboration like really got me into it. And then I'd be like one of 2 or 3 drummers that actually show up to the concerts. I'm like, what the hell? Now we only got 2 people to play hot cross buns. We're supposed to have a whole lineup. What happened, guys?
Yeah, wild.
But
Oh
then I
man.
but then I got a whole drum set for my birthday that year, and I think Magic players were like the first people that I started like playing music with. I think the first people that I ever had over to play music were Paul Miller and Josh Stein.
Oh, so
So
local Magic the Gathering sharks.
yeah, yeah, just like yeah. I was 14. I think Josh was 18, and then Paul was like 22 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Paul's ancient. I hope he
Um,
hears this.
and and then Ronnie Knapp came over too,
Oh, okay.
like like shortly after. Because I remember like Paul and Josh were like the first people that came over. We didn't even play a song or anything. Like it was just like we were just all individually jamming. There was absolutely no rhyme or rhythm. Um, and then me and Ronnie could actually like play a couple songs, and we like played at a party. Um, and that was like the first thing I did before I actually like got into a band. Because in high school, we didn't have enough musicians to make multiple bands. So there was like I remember the skaters
Right.
had like one band that like already had a drummer that was a year older than me. So like unless he like croaked or graduated,
Right.
that spot wasn't gonna get filled. I guess I could have challenged him to a drum off, but instead I just play with
Yeah.
Magic players.
I think it was the same when I went to high school. There was like the one group of 4 kids who were in a band, and there was no more room for anybody else to pick up an instrument and do something else.
Yeah, there just weren't that many other musicians to even choose from, unfortunately.
So, how was your experience with other musicians changed since then? How was your dynamic these days with the people that you work with?
I think then it was more just like finding anybody to play music with. It wasn't really, you didn't really choose people based on their skill or anything like that. It was just like, oh, you have a bass. Not even like, can you play bass well? Just, oh, you have a bass. Come on over.
Right.
Um, to where now, actually being in the music scene and everything like that, you meet people and you see them from other bands, and especially doing the cover sets that my band's been playing, it's been really easy to just, if somebody has to fall out or something like that, to pick somebody else up from another band, and that's been kind of great because it's like you're getting to know somebody better through music,
Hmm.
that you just knew from the music scene, but maybe didn't know all that much about them because you only saw them at loud ass music venues. So
Right.
you only got to say a few words. Hey, and I said, oh yeah, man, cool. And so now it's more. Before it was more like playing music with my friends. Now it's like making friends through music, through playing music.
Right on. Is it any more serious than it was back then?
I don't know if it's serious now. I would say that in my original band that I was in, Heavyweights, that it definitely got serious at one point. I think it kind of has to for a lot of original bands.
Hmm.
At least if you want to take it to another level. If you have goals that you want to get to, I think you need to take it a little more seriously. But right now, I don't think anything's any more serious than it was then. Just because I think now I'm working with such a well-rounded group of musicians that the everybody knows what they're bringing to practice, and like everybody's, you know, got the rhythm of how things normally go. So really, it's just still a bunch of bullshitting.
Right on. Do you have an extravagant or lofty musical goal, possibly an unattainable one, but a goal nonetheless?
Hmm, that's a tough one because I feel like I'm a pretty big realist when it comes to music,
Hmm.
and very much of the philosophy like make it an enjoyable part of your life, not a tedious part of your life.
Right.
And really, to get to like some obtainable goal, you kind of have to get to that tedious point and like really put in a lot of work into it. Um, but that said, I think it would be to have like an honest, great tour. Like, and what I mean by that is not necessarily like something that's like sellout shows the whole way through or anything like that, but like a solid, smooth tour that makes sense money wise
Right.
and has the thrill of traveling and the journey with it, but isn't some part of, and with music it has to get to that kind of stuff. It's like a constantly growing thing. People gotta see that your band's gonna grow to want to put the money behind it.
Right.
But just a tour that is just like smooth traveling and has no expectations. No, it's got to be this good.
Yeah, yeah.
Not even like great shows or anything like that. Just 10 solid shows that are with like other local musicians at in those areas.
Didn't
Because
bankrupt the band.
yeah, because a big thing when I was in Heavyweights is we would try to hit up touring bands to be like, hey, do you need a show in Baltimore? Do you want to play a show in Baltimore? And
Mhm.
then we would book the shows basically around that. Um, and that happened a lot at Sidebar because Travis's schedule was like fairly open.
Right.
And we could play there like, 2 or 3 times a year and it didn't feel too oversaturated. Um, and I feel like if I were able to just do that for like 10 shows in a row and then just come back and never do it again, that would be awesome.
What about short-term or immediate goals? Do you have anything that you're working on that's right around the corner?
I don't know about right around the corner, but I have started writing songs myself, which I was a drummer for a while, and I always sang like backups, and I did choir for a little bit in high school. But I never really picked up, like, I was always shit at guitar. a little less shit at bass,
Right.
and but I started picking up a keyboard and just playing like the guitar and bass on that and writing songs. And so I don't have either an EP or an LP, but uh, just record. First, I got to get an original band together. Right now, it's just me and Chris, the bass player.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, record an album and then try to. I also want to book my own shows with a cover band because I feel like there's some smaller bars, like maybe in Pasadena or some other cities in Maryland that aren't Baltimore.
Okay.
That would be down for like a night of just like a band or two, just covering, some rock band or some pop punk band.
Yeah, that seems to be the way around here, really. I mean,
Yeah,
more
and just
covers than originals.
yeah, and I think that as far as the the blood of music, I mean that's just playing at bars where people are barely paying attention to you is like what musicians have been doing for the last 100 years, more so than even playing shows
Yeah.
with an audience directed towards you. And I haven't really done a lot of that honestly as a musician, so I think that would be like I think for my cover band, wanting to start do some more of those like authentic cover shows, I guess.
Like a casual show, not like
Yeah,
a very pressured headlining
yeah,
sort of gig.
a show where you're playing on the floor, not the stage.
Yeah.
And so, like, more of those while also finishing up my original stuff that I've been working on.
Right on. Have you ever had a moment in your musician career where you feel you've reached a personal milestone?
Yeah, definitely. With heavyweights, we were trying to get onto the Ernie Ball stage at Warped Tour, where it was like the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands. I don't even remember what you won, but they would always have like I think 10 local acts on there. And so we tried for about like 3 years. We do all the stuff of like, hey, vote for us, do this on Facebook or whatever, to get onto this Warped Tour thing. And then maybe the third year, I think we had just released like our new EP with our new band name and everything like that, and really pushed for it and didn't get on it. But then the following year, we basically just did the bare minimum to sign up, didn't ask anybody to do anything, and we got on it. So
Hmm.
I think it was kind of one of those things that they just like to see bands
They just wanted to see
actually.
you.
They just want to see you like have longevity and like, oh,
Okay.
okay, these guys are actually a band and they're gonna keep doing their thing.
Hmm.
They're not just a group of four dudes that just got together, did one album, and then they're gonna all quit. Like,
Yeah.
not even a year into it. And so yeah, we got to play that, and it was just kind of like an overall shit day. The day of War Tour, the whole tour was late getting there. It was like raining its ass off. They told us to get there at like 8 a.m. or you're not gonna play.
Wow.
The tour didn't even get there until like 11. Like the first part of the Warp Tour got
Huh.
there at about 11 a.m. And and we were like running between gates to figure out like how to get in, even though nobody was actually there for it yet.
Right.
The way they had it scheduled, like any of the bands that I wanted to see were all playing at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock basically.
Hmm.
And then we played, I think, at like 2:30, and I think I ended up leaving like basically right after we played. I was like, this was just so exhausting. But that was still, despite all that shit, was still amazing. Just an amazing experience just for that 45 minutes of playing.
Yeah.
Just because of the amount of people that were playing and just like the drive I personally felt to like really just go out there and kill it.
Hmm.
It felt like I was playing in just like a metal shack, the stage at that point, because it was so humid that day. It was raining for about 3 hours, and then it just got July hot. And and I remember I had like I was all like Pikachu'd out that day. Like that was like my outfit of choice. And I was like looking at pictures of it. So I have like a yellow tank top, and I'm just like blood red playing drums. But I just remember that feeling like still such a reward for everything that we had put into it, and was still like even the few experiences of like new people being like, hey, like that was awesome. Like, we want to buy your merch, and like, just it being a brand new level of shows, like this festival of shows. We'd always played a single stage, maybe a two-stage thing at some weird setup in
Yeah.
Arbutus,
Yeah, yeah.
like Fishhead Cantina. But
Yeah.
besides that, like never anything to that magnitude. Um, and it really kind of gives you a perspective as a musician of like how not that glamorous things are. Like nobody
Yeah.
came in from Warped Tour that day looking like a rock star, and nor did it have that like feel of things, despite what I'm sure the videos taken that day would have shown otherwise.
Yeah, they show you the best 10 minutes of what is otherwise everybody frantically busting their ass to make sure everything works.
Yeah, yeah, especially with the whole day like running late, and like I like the one other band that I wanted to see that was like playing earlier in the day. I remember they were playing like as I had to run from like across the way to get more merch and then come back, and I like barely had time to even watch a song. Like I was just
Oh,
like singing
man.
along while like carrying my drum across the dirt road at Merriweather.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's just like, but even despite all that, I think the 45 minutes makes it worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like an exciting experience.
Yeah, and it also kind of, I mean, it's a cool thing to be like, okay, this is what it is. Like, do you want to keep doing this to get to that? And then,
Yeah, yeah.
and at the time I kind of thought like, I don't know, like it seemed like I don't know if the juice is really worth the squeeze. But now being a little older and like looking back on it and just looking back at like music as a whole, I do think it is a pretty rewarding industry as far as getting what you put into it. It might not always seem that way for people that are trying to break through, especially in the internet age. I feel like things are significantly different
Yeah.
than what a lot of people grew up with, which is tough because that's what you like aspire to do.
Hmm.
You aspire to be like the bands that you grew up with and how they did things, but the reality of it is you can't really do that anymore.
There will never be another Beatles. There will never be another Led Zeppelin Madison Square Garden show.
Yeah,
It's much different now.
but even like System of a Down, like none of those
Yeah.
dudes had to know anything about a computer to be a successful band, but you really should in
Yeah.
2021, you know. Even like with your setup with the podcast and everything like that, like all that stuff is very valuable, um, like knowledge to learn in the industry this day and age, because so much coming out is self-produced and self-released,
Yeah.
and that's kind of, it's not the only way to make it because there's plenty of labels and everything like that, but it's significantly now more than ever is a way to make it.
Yeah.
And I think that's another kind of way that the industry is more rewarding than most, is that it's not coming from a little bit of pro wrestling, especially
Right.
where everything is tied to these companies and the politics of it. Like music has that with the major labels, but it has like this other route too of just like self-releasing and just doing creative stuff to put your stuff out there. That's always been a thing, but I think now more than ever, you can just do any kind of video, even if it's not your song, and then it gets people to listen to your music.
Yeah. Yeah. We're definitely at risk of getting lost in the shuffle as everybody tries to learn how to do this stuff, but just is what it is. So if you're liking our conversation so far, make sure to click all the things that engage our metrics on each platform.
Yeah, absolutely. There's robots in the background of all these things, and we want the robots to turn the knobs in a good way for us.
Absolutely. So when it comes to making your music and your art, are there subjects or genres or things that are taboo or off limits when you are creating, or places you won't go?
I would say the the thing that comes to mind is of what I wouldn't do is like coming from a place of inauthenticity, I guess.
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to, and I guess that's not really taboo, but I wouldn't want to sing about something that I'm not really experiencing. I wouldn't want to write music that's for a different scene than I'm not in, or, like something like that. I feel like everything that I personally write or want to be a part of, I feel some connection to it. And as far as, I think music's so powerful that I don't really think that anything's off limits as far as like a message goes. I'm a pretty cool person, so I'm not really gonna be spouting some bullshit. As far as something like that, I don't have some like secret view that like I don't really love guns and want to just not put that in music or anything like that.
Right. You're not Ted Nugent. You're not Kid Rock. You're not.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not that without the music, like I'm not
Right.
that behind, but I would never put it out. I think what would more be off limits would be something that I felt like inappropriate, coming from an inappropriate position to talk about and like speak about,
So you focus.
poser or,
You
being a
focus
poser.
on your life experience and everything.
Yeah, definitely. And just like and drawing from past emotions or just if I'm playing with somebody else, trying to understand where they're coming from with their songwriting and being a part of that. To where if that felt off, I don't think I could be a part of that. If they were, spouting about something that I totally disagreed with, then that would be off limits to me.
Right.
But like as far like I mean, you could get into like some Nine Inch Nails sexual type stuff, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, as long as it's something I agree,
Right. I mean, those the downward spiral. I mean, that's just a banger. You can't. I mean, it's weird. But we can't judge it too closely.
Yeah, but I don't know that I'd be able to write like that, but I don't put it off limits either.
Okay.
I don't. If something would make my mom upset, then I feel like that I'm doing pretty good as a musician.
Oh, okay. So some people would not want to make mom upset, but you're okay with it.
Well, I just feel like with generations, that's should be one of the goals in music. I feel like if
Okay.
if the 30 and ups aren't saying, "Oh, how can anybody listen to this shit?" then like they really haven't done their job as musicians.
Right.
Music wouldn't grow as it's grown without that.
So as an aside on that comment, are you on the hyperpop train? Are you on the TikTok music that is almost
I don't know about TikTok music because TikTok is just pretty bizarre.
mhm.
It's bizarre and entertaining enough at the same time that I can't have it on my phone.
Right.
I will not because it's gonna not positively affect my life. I'm not saying nobody should be on TikTok. It's a cancer to society or anything like that. I just can't get into that. But I still very much look at pop music. Like I don't know if you know the rapper Pop Smoke, but I like just got into his music and I was like, there's something different about this guy. Like it's mostly trap music, but apparently he gets all his beats from the UK and they're just all different. Like everything's a little bit different. And I got into his music like earlier this week and I found out he died in like February 2020. He has like the
wow.
craziest 9-month run of a career of all time.
Hmm.
Like almost Biggie level run. His two full lengths came out after he died,
Okay.
and they were both like huge. And so that had so much intrigue to it that like stuff like that I don't really have a as long as it interests me, I'm not like, oh, I don't listen to that shit.
So you're on the new stuff as long as it's appealing
Yeah,
to you.
I'm
a
not
little
very
bit.
hip, but I'm not I'm not against it at all.
Okay.
Yeah. There definitely is music though, as a 29-year-old that I'm like, how do kids listen to this bullshit? Absolutely. Like I'm still a grandpa
Yeah.
after, once you hit that age.
Quickly approaching boomer levels.
Yeah.
What is your relationship with the term success as a musician? Do you feel successful?
I think I feel successful because I feel like my life's enriched by music, and everything that I'm doing with music feels like a for the better.
Hmm.
Which to me that feels successful. I think that you can have success in music and it's still not successful because it's like too much strain on, your life,
Hmm.
the other people in your life. And at the same time, I think that some people want to get to that level and and have to make the sacrifices to do so. For me, that's just not really like success. For me, I feel successful with music because I'm the person in my generation of like my family that kept music going. Because like the past two generations on my mom's side both were musicians.
Okay.
Um, and not everybody, but there was just like a family band like down the way.
Mm.
And so like that also feels successful to me to like carry on that as a family thing too.
Yeah, yeah. What is the most difficult part for you about making music or being a musician?
Definitely getting people to come to shows. Not even close. Absolutely the number one thing. And I'm lucky to have such supportive friends. Really, it's just that's an unfortunate part of playing local music.
Hmm.
Um, and not always, but if I had to say like my least favorite part, that's like the most tedious part. And it almost feels like heartbreaking when somebody's like, like, hey, I'm gonna come. You got them on your list on your phone of people that are coming, and then they're like,
Right, right,
something came up. And you're just like,
right.
yeah, yeah, probably that. But it's a necessary evil. I don't
Yeah.
want to play in front of nobody either. And having the people there, makes it, you know, it gives the crowd that much more energy.
Um, yeah, speaking of playing in front of nobody, how do you feel about like the streaming thing and playing for a digital audience with nobody in the room?
I think it's pretty cool. I probably watch more gaming than music on Twitch,
Hmm.
but I definitely watch music on Twitch. And I think that it's a really awesome way to put yourself out there, because you are just playing to a digital audience. You are just playing in your room. So the dynamic changes a lot as far as what you have to put together to put out. You don't have to, when you're playing live in front of an audience, you really want a person playing every instrument.
Right.
You really want the full band, everybody with their big stacks and a full drum set, all
Yeah,
mic'd
yeah.
up. To where Twitch, you don't necessarily have to have that, but you can. I mean, you went for it,
Hmm.
um, but it's not a necessary thing. You can kind of go out there and just do your own thing and put all the music behind it. But if you're still, performing keyboard, guitar, drums, and singing, or just doing anything, interacting with the audience with that, um, the possibilities then open up so much more. And because it's a digital platform, it doesn't feel empty.
Right. Is this something that you would consider doing in the near future?
I think so. I think if I was near future, probably not, because I
Mm.
think that would be something that I'd want to do when I'm like a homeowner and I
Mhm.
have like I can build a studio in my house that's kind of like equipped for something like that.
Right.
Um, and I think it's also I mean, it's a very time consuming thing too because it's not even almost more so than just writing and releasing music. Um, to try to be like a whole streaming personality and to continue that audience growth,
Yeah.
try to go from 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 people to more.
Hmm.
Takes a lot of time and like longevity. So I feel like I'd want to have like a really good setup for it.
Right.
But I think it's super cool. I think it's a way to interact with the audience in a completely different way. That it almost feels more face to face, even though it's not.
Right.
just with you can talk to people individually with comments. Make it more about a me and you guys thing rather than, all right, our next song's this. Ah!
Right. Um, do you believe these days that music has monetary value? And do you believe that being a musician is a viable job?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that the ways to become a professional musician are definitely different. Um, but at the same time, pretty much everything still exists as far as the normal run of things, I guess, of just like write an album, put it out there, someone likes it, someone signs you, go do tours,
Hmm.
you know, go play bars, play acoustic solo sets, go play out 4 to 7 times a week. That all still exists,
Yeah.
but at the same time, there's other avenues for it as well. Do I think that there's maybe less money in some of those pools than there used to be? I think so, but I mean, music is so universal, and I don't think that despite people's complaints, I don't think it's like totally bastardized or anything like that.
Yeah.
What the mainstream is might be different than what people were, you know, used to growing up. But honestly, most of those genres still exist.
Mhm.
Like I feel like, the whole wing of like doom metal existing and still very much thriving to this day is a truly exemplary example of like this is what you can still do with music.
Right.
Shit's definitely not dead.
Yeah.
People are still going. Like I feel like if you can go out there and make it professionally as a doom musician, you could go do it with any music. I love doom personally. I think it's just so afar from mainstream music now. I
Yeah.
feel like it's like total opposite. Not even black metal, but like doom metal's so chill
Hmm.
and modern music's so not chill. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
high pitched, high energy, and it's still viable.
Hmm.
So I think that it's still very much possible.
Okay. Yeah, I asked this question a lot, and this will be episode 4. And a lot of people like say the same thing, and I just want to point out the reason why I bring up this question is because we grew up in an age where first Napster came out and devalued all music.
Yeah.
And then Kazaa and LimeWire also devaluing all music, to where music was 100% free. Nobody was getting any royalties off of it for a while. If you wanted to put out music, you'd be putting it out without the expectation of selling it.
Yeah.
Until I guess Radiohead within Rainbows and the pay what you want scheme kind of showed that people were willing to pay for digital music again. But I do like hearing people's perspectives on this going forward and in the past episodes, because we are in a weird like limbo state of what music, what the value of music really is.
Yeah, I do agree with that for sure. And I think that the value that you have to propose to the people that you want to spend their money on has to be a lot different now. It can't just be a 3x3 plastic square with a good CD in it.
Right.
You have to put out more than that. But at the same time, I've seen people drop like $200 to $300 on merch in one night. Just because bands put out so much cool stuff, so many different limited releases, so many, and they just took it all with them, and they just like sold a bunch of it that night. And I think that that's kind of what you have to think about is like it doesn't always have to be that, because I don't think a lot of genres even fit that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But just like you just have to you have to put more value on performances. I mean, because concert tickets are expensive as fuck nowadays.
Yeah.
And that is, as cheap as music is to listen to, it's that much more expensive to go see.
Right.
So I think the game's just constantly changing as far as that goes. It does feel a little bit tough to break through nowadays because it feels more of a driven path. You kind of got to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it once was. There's not. I think for the better, but there's not the same institutions to go through to get there.
So what do you do to pay the bills?
I am an accountant. My mom had a tax business, and accounting has always been a thing that I disliked a lot less than most people. Most
Okay.
people seem to have a huge problem with accounting. To me, it's not a big deal at all.
Okay.
And so that has been a nice thing. It's really steady. Besides for maybe being in the funeral business, the tax business is probably the most solid industry.
Okay. So this doesn't interfere too much with your musicianship and funds it for the most part.
Yeah, and it's just something that I don't have to think about afterwards, and it lets me be creative in other aspects of my life too.
Awesome.
It's so and I've kind of come to that, like, because I don't have to think about my job as much, I get to think about other fun stuff more, which I think is a good balance to have. I've even like trying to do professional wrestling, I never looked at that as like my job. I was always like, what can I do with wrestling? And now it's kind of like that with the rest of my life. What can I do with, my job, rather than trying to make a job out of something you love?
Right.
I think if there was one thing that I was totally dead set on as far as like musicianship or gaming or something like that, I was just like, that's my absolute thing that I want to do. I'm going to go for it. 'Cause I have tried that with magic for sure. Especially when I was just younger and didn't have the looming weight of society
Right.
and house prices and everything. I was just young and ignorant about that stuff. I was like, I'll worry about it later. I was more willing to try to do something like that. But being a little older, having something that is secure but not constantly looming has been awesome.
Cool. I ask everybody this. What is the favorite what is your favorite rather piece of equipment that you've owned or used?
My favorite piece of equipment, I think it is my how do you say? Is it pasty?
I think either one's fine.
Yeah,
We're from America.
They're not listening. It's probably my Peisty 2002. Is it? No, I think there's
Yeah.
a 2000 series ride cymbal. It was the first one that I got, like of that brand of cymbal. I am so bad at talking about music equipment. That is the one thing that like I am not into really at all.
Really?
Yeah, mainly just being a drummer and singer and like getting used to playing shows where I'm just playing on whatever.
Okay.
I just kind of like forgot about all that stuff. As a kid, I used to like really be into it.
Okay.
But then I was just kind of like, there's so much more about music that I haven't really focused on. But those cymbals definitely like changed it up for me a lot. Because they're basically indestructible but they're so versatile at the same time that they just feel so reliable, which as a drummer with cymbals, you don't always feel that way.
Right.
Or just any kind of drumming equipment at all.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard to get. You have to change stuff so constantly as a drummer, especially the more you play.
Yeah.
And the more you travel with your equipment and everything like that. That or my station wagon.
The
Because
station wagon. Okay.
the station wagon has had an entire band's worth of equipment in it multiple times. And that is absolutely, that car is not cool whatsoever. But the shit that I've been able to do with that car as far as music goes has been super cool.
Awesome.
So actually, fuck the cymbal, the station wagon is my best piece of equipment.
Nice.
Music equipment.
So you said you don't like the gear stuff. I usually ask people how much gear is too much. Is that for you? Is that not?
Well, no, because I definitely understand it. And I think I get excited working with people that are big gearheads because
Okay.
I know that they're bringing something to the table I'm not. They're so much more knowledgeable in something that I'm not. So as far as what is too much gear, I think it's when it's like affecting your spouse in your home is when it's like too much gear, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, when it's you're balancing multiple credit cards for the gear and everything like that, then it could be too much. But I don't think that people just pouring their extra money into gear without there doesn't need to be a monetary return for that kind of stuff, you know?
Okay.
It's very much hobby, like it's a depreciating asset immediately, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think that there's ever too much because there's so much cool gear out there too, you
Right.
know.
Do you get gear acquisition syndrome? Have you heard of this phrase?
No, gear acquisition syndrome.
Those-
I've never had gas. I guess.
So sometimes, you buy for instance, you buy a cymbal, and it's cheaper to get a 2-pack of cymbal stands than it is to get one by itself.
Okay.
So now you have an extra cymbal stand, so you decide might as well get another cymbal. And the cymbal just happens to be in a pack. And you have some extra cymbals, and now you're low on stands.
Gotcha. Okay. I have for sure. Like, especially because I feel like I would use more stuff than I have. I haven't done it as much because I've been more minimalistic with like my drum setup.
Mm-hmm.
In maybe like the past 10 years, I would say. But before that, especially in like the 2000s, absolutely. I was like, yeah, I've already got this drum set. Let me buy the extra floor tom to match with it.
Yeah.
Let me get might as well get this China that's on sale. That's like $30. Like I'll have two Chinas,
Right.
But now like having to move everything around, I'm just so much like, I like my ride. I can do so much with it. I'll just, do ride in one cymbal or,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I definitely feel like that could be a slippery slope. Um, I also just spend too much money on Pokemon cards, to be real. To be able to also be a nerd about like music gear.
Okay.
Although I always like had other people leading the way as far as band stuff go, to where now I've had to take the charge on like getting a practice space, booking shows and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
as of recently. And so it is something that I'm starting to get into, and I've definitely spent most of my money at a time. I've definitely ran the checking account to $10 to get a speaker for my practice space.
Okay.
So I'm starting to get back into the swing of stuff.
Right. So
Um,
as the Pokemon dries up and the music takes the forefront, then we're like, guess it's time to spend some money. And then other times it's like, well, I'd rather buy the new shiny VMAX rainbow card.
oh
Or
yeah, and I think now I'm getting more into music equipment and what's gonna make a room sound good, what's gonna you know, it's not necessarily I'm not streaming or recording or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I might be down the line, and I feel like maybe that's when I could start going off the deep end.
Yeah. Well, look forward to Kurt's gear acquisition syndrome in the future years of his musicianship. Do you have any hobbies or passion projects? And you've already spoken about Pokemon, but as well as Pokemon, outside of music that fight for your music time.
Yeah, that actually like last year and this year I've been doing more Pokemon stuff. I would say before that I was, we met through playing Magic at the game store.
Hmm.
And just like I think we were both also playing a lot of other games at the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I was probably like 14 or 15 when we met. I was pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was when it was across the street from the college. Um, that at one point kind of music was the transition out of that for a little bit, and I was really starting to focus on music. But this past year or two, I've been really getting into the Pokemon scene again. Not just playing, but I organized a convention in September.
Hmm.
It was like a smaller thing. It was like more of like a show than a convention, I guess. Um, But I really loved doing that. I really loved the event planning process, like, taking on all the different roles needed, figuring out like what worked, what didn't work, and how I can bring new stuff to that scene, because it is such a growing thing. It boomed so much over the pandemic,
Hmm.
but everybody was doing it from home, and to now be able to like bring more of a real life meetup thing to this thing that people were already into as kids, but are now getting into it again and getting their kids into it. It's felt really rewarding, and that definitely competes a little bit with some of the energy I have for music. But at the same time, it's also made me comfortable being at the head of something, wanting to put together something that I need to promote and get an audience for, which I think can translate really well to music.
Yeah, yeah, sounds like it. Do you still do um, wrestling, and will that once again share the spotlight with your music time?
So I am currently not wrestling anymore. I was training to be a pro wrestler and doing some small shows. It was about 4 years. I mean, there was like some stops into that, and I was like training at different places. So that would like, I would go up to Philadelphia. It'd be like once a week, and then that was like on a break. But yeah, I did that for a while, and I mean, it was like a thing that I always wanted to do as a kid. But one of the things that felt difficult about music and being in a band was that you needed everybody to be on the same page. You
Right.
needed everybody to have the same goals, be able to make the same sacrifices to get to the same places.
Hmm.
To where in wrestling, it's really just yourself. You're only having to deal with, what's going on in your life. You can, pump the brakes or hit the gas as needed.
Hmm.
And I liked that a lot, because it didn't feel like you were, part of somebody else's plan of something, and you're not dragging other people into it either.
Right.
Um, that said, wrestling is fucking hard. It is so much more difficult than I would even imagine. Even though I knew it was like this like big, crazy, difficult thing, I'd had no plan to do it as a teenager because I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just like not ever gonna get to that point in my life. Like I'm never gonna be that strong and like be able to do that.
Right.
But then it just kind of like came back into my life in my 20s, and I'm super glad that I went for it. But the pandemic really just like killed my passion for it and kind of just made me reevaluate how I wanted to go about passion projects in life. Um, and it felt like music, you were just able to get a lot more out of it. I had a lot more years and reps into music. But I just felt like you're able to get more out of it than wrestling, as far as what you put into it versus what you get out. And I think that part of that, honestly, is the I guess the institutions of wrestling versus like the institutions of music. I was kind of talking before.
Right.
Wrestling's still very much about the organizations and like the politics of those organizations,
Hmm.
and getting into that, getting into that scene, taking that same path that's established, to
Right.
where music is a lot more freeform with how you have to go about things. And wrestling, there's a lot more outside expectations, to where music is very much about like fulfilling yourself.
Right.
And so that is what kind of made me want to like step aside from wrestling. Um, Diamond Dallas Page is also like, I don't know if you know who he is.
I do.
Awesome. Um, he started wrestling in his last like run of wrestling when he was 35.
Oh.
He did a little bit in his 20s, but he just felt like he was terrible and like didn't want to do it.
Hmm.
He opened up a nightclub in Florida and like did that for years, and was just like, I'm just gonna go back to wrestling. I'm gonna give it another shot. Was a manager, and they were like, nah, you're too big and too good looking to manage. Like, learn to wrestle and wrestle. Like, and he did, and he became really successful at it. Um, and a lot of guys that have started training at MCW in Maryland, started when they were like 28, 29, and have gone on to be really successful. So I don't think it's something that has to just like you have to try it once.
Right.
It's still there. I don't have any plans to go back to it, but I still love it. And even though there was like a little bit of when I quit, there was a little bit of lull in my passion for it.
Hmm.
But it's definitely come back, especially now that shows have audiences again, and it's kind of like this new age of like everybody trying to prove themselves now that the world's open again.
Right.
That's really exciting, and I'm kind of glad I'm not competing in that. Honestly, it's nice to watch. It's really nice to be an audience member again and not be in the thick of a steroid film locker room.
I can understand that. Well, as we wrap up, why don't you tell us a little bit about your most recent musical project and where people can find you and these projects on the internet?
Yeah. So my cover band is Hey Girl Hey. We don't really have that much out there as far as like stuff to go look at. But if you're ever in Baltimore, our next show is it's going to be the next emo show at Baltimore Soundstage, January 29th.
All right.
We're going to be covering Fall Out Boy.
Nice.
But then my original band is Why Not, spelled like the Pokemon Why Not.
Mm.
And we don't have anything yet. But keep it in the back of your head.
Any schedule? You got some songs written or anything like that?
Yeah, there's some songs written.
Awesome.
That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, And if you're in it this long, I would say take that time and effort you're going to spend on me and spend it on every other local musician, just because everybody needs the support.
Absolutely.
It's such a I love coming across people that are passionate about supporting local scenes and you can tell immediately because it's so much the lifeblood of it, and is the way as a musician, those are the people to connect to because they're going to be the people that are going to come with you along the way. They're going to be the people that spend the money, and so try to be those people for other bands.
Yeah.
And I'll still be around.
Well, Kurt, thank you so much for coming in here on such short notice and talking with me today. It's been a blast. It's been a while since we've actually gotten to sit down and talk about anything. So this has been pretty cool to catch up.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
And we're going to wrap up here and go to the rest of the podcast. So stay tuned. This concludes episode 4 of Thrash Life. If you enjoyed our conversation today, please consider supporting the show by liking, subscribing, reviewing, commenting, and telling your friends, as well as sharing on social media. Thrash Life is recorded in Baltimore, Maryland, USA, at Orion Studios. We are a production of Medusa Head Media. I'd like to extend special thanks to our guest, Kurt, our co-host, ya boy, Kyle, and all of our listeners. Thank you very much for listening. Peace out.